Hi, I'm Peggy with Headshots by Peggy, and today we have some amazing guests with us. So today, A. Martinez is with us, and you have seen him over the years. He's a veteran actor. You've done a lot of work.
I've been around a long time. Yeah, if you stick around, then you end up doing
a lot of work.
Right.
So you've seen him in Bold and the Beautiful, Young and the Restless, movies like Powwow Highway. That's actually the first time I saw you.
Oh yeah,
is that movie?
That's a good one. Yeah.
Recently in the Netflix series Longmire.
Longmire, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows. So
Mine
we
too.
Totally binged on that one.
Yeah, good.
And coming up, you're going to be in Queen of the South this coming up season.
Yeah, I come in on episode 4. I think it's around July 3rd or July 10th.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
So a lot of exciting things going on.
Yeah.
And then of course we have Merrick McCartha. He's an up and coming working actor. You've probably seen him all over the place on commercials and a lot of hit TV shows: Criminal Minds, Scandal, Lethal Weapon. I know you're going to be on this season's Get Shorty.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different things.
Yeah.
So the reason that I asked these two amazing guys to come on is now you're not only an actor, but you direct and he sings. Not only you, but your entire family, even your beautiful wife Leslie, they're all just amazing, talented, and musically inclined.
Yeah.
And Merrick and I went and heard your daughter's concert. Amazing, by the way. A little plug for Ren.
Farren. R-E-N.
Yeah.
A-R-R-E-N.
She is mind-blowing, amazing. But anyway, after the concert, we were all just kind of sitting around talking. Actually, believe it or not, I was listening. I know I talk all the time. But these guys were just kind of talking shop. And I thought, this is something our viewers should hear, whether they're thinking about getting into the industry, whether they've just started out, whether they've been doing this for a while. It was just really good stuff that you guys were just kind of coming up with. So kind of start off by telling us, you've been in the industry for a long time and things have changed. Just start off by telling us how was it like when you started?
Well, it's funny. And I don't know if this is real. It could just be my own paranoia when I was young. But I think it's a nicer place. The industry is a nicer place to conduct a career now than it used to be. When I was starting off, I had a sense that there was a lot of actors. I came across a few of them who sort of thought of the process as a competition. Like, I'm going to win this scene. When you're working with somebody that sort of starts to seem like, in crucial moments, they have the opposite of your back. It's like, they're just like, I work with people, you just think, wow, seriously, dude, you waited until this moment of my close-up to pull that? What was that, right?
Wow.
And I could be completely making this up, but I don't think so. And I think over the years, obviously I started in for seriously in 1968, so a lot of years have gone by, and there's been a lot of shift in the culture in what I like to think is a positive direction, and I think it's manifested in.
You're like 3 years old when you started that.
Oh yeah. I know, you did that math quick. Damn, the computer. Yeah. That's what I think. What do you ever thought about that?
As far as starting out, working now, it's a lot of actors I think are so caught up in the audition process, and working on set is. It's nice, I guess. Maybe back then, I don't have the experiences of people trying to scene steal, like you might have gone through. But yeah, everyone kind of, does their thing, and we're all kind of get along once we're there. Because I think our attitude is, once we're on set, we book the job. So we're like, hey, it's cool. Let's hang out. Let's have fun. Let's just make this a great scene. That's what our goal is. Yeah. But I know starting out, I think we were talking about this that night, is what I go through when I started out about 8-9 years ago. There were things that had just changed. This new digital age thing had just happened with the online casting process versus what it used to be, I think, years ago, which was all paper and courier process,
Yes.
which was insane to think about now, only because now we've got 100 shows going at any given time, whereas back then it was like
Well, there
it was
used
only
to be
three
the
networks.
networks.
Yeah.
It was
the
only three networks. Now
networks.
it's like bazillion networks, all
Yeah.
these shows going on. So they've got to cast so many roles every single week, and it's almost year round now. Whereas before there was pilot season, then there was episodic season, I guess, and they kind of still sort of have that, but it's really fading because now they will cast pilots throughout the year, depending on which networks are shooting it.
That's a key thing.
Yeah.
Do you feel good about that? You like to do self-taping and stuff? You feel good about doing that?
I like going in to meet people, in person. When I get the self-tape, I'm happy to get it, but I'm always thinking, if I were there, they'd get a better sense of me personally. But other projects can't logistically do that for their shows. Some shows shoot in Atlanta or Chicago, and they're looking for people. They can't fly them in for the audition. It wouldn't make sense for them. So we do the self-tape, and I don't mind that. But as far as the headshot submissions and the job submissions, a lot of that I can find myself for smaller projects. But the bigger projects are still kind of between the agent and the production, the casting people. Whereas back then, it was like you can go into the casting office and say, hey, I want to be on General Hospital. Here's my headshot.
Picture,
And
remember me. So that works. That's true. That's really true. It's a lot more like what New York was like back in the day, when you could actually function without an agent and get around and just look out for yourself. The thing I find most wonderful about self-taping is that you actually can do it until you get it right. And if you're obsessive about it, and I would confess to be, because I mean, I find this when I work too. It's like every time you do the scene, you learn something. It's a constant process of learning. These new possibilities arise as every time you go through the journey. So what I end up doing, I find, even though I don't want to, is take so much time to do a self-tape audition. And I'm real thrilled about the fact, like I had 2 in one day to do when I was in Dallas working on Queen of the South. The only 2 I got the whole time, but they were on the same day. And they would, we need this like tomorrow, And I recall that I did them back to back, and I looked up, and it was like 11 hours.
That you spent doing
Right,
this.
alone in my hotel room.
Wow.
Because I got nobody to work with. I'm having to imagine it, and I'm having to call my daughter in L.A. to have her read the lines and fly them in, and it was absurd.
Yeah.
But one of them, at least the tale is told, it almost got me a job.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
Now I think there's probably 2 minds about them. I can see your perspective now. Is that with the self-tape, now you have the time to perfect it and make it just right, just what you want to present.
Yeah.
And that's a great argument. My side of it was, hey, I like in person because when you're there, when you're in that moment, certain magic can happen that is not rehearsed, that really just works for the room.
There's different energy when you're in front of someone.
But I guess you could go, there's arguments about that. But that's a great point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Well,
But I agree with you. I do the same. When I'm self-taping, I'm like, let's keep doing it. Right.
that's good. But what if?
You're right, exactly.
That's wonderful.
When you say
accept that.
keep going, yeah.
Right.
My island's not right. I got to do it again, or it's always some little thing that some people don't understand.
Right. And I look up and I've been working on it for an hour, and then I realize, this light is like I didn't get the light.
Yeah.
What an idiot! Why did I spend an hour without figuring the light?
I'll come to Peggy for a self-tape, and I'll do it like 10 times, and I'll go every time. How was it? That was great. I go, no, I got to do it again. Do it again. So
Right.
She's like, they were all great. I don't know how you are going to choose from these. I'm like, no, I know. There are certain little things I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So, but that's it. But yeah, self-taping is a big thing now, I think. And it's becoming more and more acceptable. Even if it's a local production, I've done things that were produced locally, but they still just want a self-tape just for expediency. I don't know. But
Saves them money, I think, too.
I think they can kind of you got a call back yesterday for a self-tape, so you self-tape and then call back. You go in just once instead of twice in person.
Yeah, that was
probably saves them a lot of time.
Yeah, it's actually for a commercial where it was for mountain biking. So I did a slate and I taped myself mountain biking on a trail.
You taped yourself?
Well, I taking all the credit. Peggy taped me mountain biking. And she was nice enough to cut out the dramatic fall that I did when I did the mountain biking. It's totally crash and burn.
It wasn't part of what they're
It
looking
wasn't
for.
part of what they're looking for.
Right.
It wasn't part of the role. I was like, they don't want the.
I was like, that's fine. We got enough. I can cut that. It was perfect right up until the time he hit gravel and.
Yeah.
And
so, what are some of the crazier auditions that you've done that was just kind of out there, like wow?
Well, I'll say one thing. Among the worst auditions I ever did, and I confess, I blew it. I didn't pay close enough attention to my email. So suddenly there was this audition, and it was like in an hour. And it's like, what an idiot. And I know there'd been talk that maybe something was going to happen. So I decided I'm going to go for it, even though I'm not ready.
Right.
Usually I spend literally, the minute I get like a script for an audition, I pretty much devote every waking moment to it until I go in there. I leave no stone unturned, except that time there was no time to do anything. So I think, well, I kind of got what it's like, and I'll go in there and I'll get the gist of it, and then I'll just riff, right? And I went in there and I just, in my estimation, humiliated myself. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, where you get, you start to go, okay, that didn't work, but you're in it, and so the minute you start saying things like that didn't work,
then your whole
it's like going to go downhill from then. And I was just so mortified. I don't think I apologized, but I felt just bereft. And I remember I went to the West Side Pavilion to meet my family to see a movie, and I remember like my manager called me, and I was sitting in my pickup truck on the street, and he says, how'd it go? I go, it was among the worst experiences of my professional life. And he's just like quiet, and I go, I'm sorry, man. I didn't confess that it was because I wasn't prepared. I just said, I just fell all over myself. And he goes, that's so weird, because they just called and gave you the job.
Of course they did.
right. Like, what?
Yeah.
And of course, basically, the truth be told, they gave me that job because they'd seen me act before, and they regarded my audition as an anomaly.
So you're well known. I mean, I would think that you get a lot of job, like maybe they just call your manager and your
direct hire. So
do you have a lot of direct hires, or do you still have to go out and audition?
Oh yeah, I audition, and I really love to audition. So to me, that's like I finally lost my horrible existential pain over this career when I started to realize that basically my career occurs in auditions. That's where I do the bulk of my work, right? I mean, you're in these little rooms. Just because it's not a whole massive giant audience, it's still people who are giving you their attention.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because I find other up-and-coming actors that approach me asking questions, one of their biggest fears is auditions, and they hate auditions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you gotta love the audition.
You gotta love the audition.
Well, you get to do what you love.
Yeah.
You get to go act.
That's
even if it's a small audience, you still get to perfect. You get to be in front of people. You get to,
And then when you do get a job, it's like, this isn't the first time in a long time that you've actually acted.
Right.
You're keeping your chops up, you're keeping the mojo going and stuff, and so.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't booked, but you've had a lot of auditions, so you're still, your mind's sharp.
Yeah.
Even with photography, I feel that if I'm not doing something every day, I'm not as sharp. You have to keep that sharp. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think auditioning is part of your job as an actor, and if you love your job as an actor, you got to love auditioning also, because think about what you get as an audition side. You get a sliver of this massive script to create something with, and they'll give you some information on that sheet. But after that, it's up to you to put something together.
That's cool.
And you get a command performance with 1 to 5 people in a room. I've had it where it's 10 people in a room sometimes, but this is your time to just show and perform. Yeah. So you got to look at it that way.
And these casting people, right? I mean, I feel so grateful that a certain number of people in this town will let me go into their room, right? Because there's a lot of people that like to get in that room that don't get to go in there, and to be one of them that actually gets to pass the threshold and go into the room to be literally considered is like I don't take that lightly. No. And so my thought is, no matter what, even things I know that I'm really unlikely to get, because we talked about this. A lot of times I'll see the thing and I'll go, I could think of 10 people that could do this as well, if not better than me. But I want to go in there anyway because they've allowed me to come, and I want to make sure that the next time my name comes up, they will remember that I did not waste their time.
Exactly. Exactly. I've had that experience also, where it's a role that I'm like, this is not Not me. It's like 50 to 60 jive talking hipster from the 70s or something like that. And it's for like some major show. And you're like, what are you going to do? So you go in and you just give your best and you be the craftsman that you're supposed to be and let that be enough. Yeah. And they've got to see that. Whether or not you're fit, they probably just wanted to see you half the time. Mm-hmm. Or you want to go in and show what you can do so that they can say, well, no, he's not right for this, but actually he's pretty good for this other thing.
I mean, I know for Merrick, a lot of times, like, the casting people, will call him up. His agent didn't submit him, but they'll call him up. Hey, he's maybe auditioned several times, mm-hmm. and they haven't found the right part for him, but they keep calling him back in. So,
that's great.
And I think when you give everything you have, that's they make notes. They remember you, mm-hmm. and I think that's
yeah, but it's still a good point about appreciating that audition. There's thousands of actors that wish they could just be in the room. Yeah.
Well, I know I had an agent on here, and she was saying that it's typical for 5,000 people to submit for a role, and then they're going to audition 20. Mm-hmm. So when you get an audition, you won. Like,
that's true.
Whether you book or not, because it doesn't have you may have nailed the audition, but they wanted somebody with a different look or different whatever. But I mean, you won, so you have to kind of look at it like you said, what an honor. You let me in your room.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's a big deal, Do you like follow up? Do you like try to find out what they thought, or you?
I don't, only because I do a lot of co-star and only some guest star at this point, but I don't check with my agents. Hey, what do they think of me or whatever? I do notice that they call me back in a lot, so that's where I'm like, oh, they clearly think I do great work. But I've been told that it's not really a thing to do. Maybe it was for a while, but it's not something you're supposed to do, is call them back and find out how you did or what they thought, because they're so busy as casting people.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And
but you could do that.
Well, I could. I could, but you know what? That's true, I could. But I actually have come to appreciate the fact that you don't have that phone call, you don't have a conversation, because basically you go and you audition, and for the rest of the day, you might be the one who got the job. Even if you didn't get the job, for the rest of that day at least, you might have gotten the job. So you get to have like a really, if you did well in the room, mm-hmm. you get to have that kind of evening of like, I'm feeling good about what I did. I feel good about myself. I'm proud that I didn't blow it. I did well. And, maybe I'll hear something good tomorrow. And then if you don't hear something good tomorrow, well, it's like not such a good sign, but maybe you'll hear something the next day, right? Mm. And I kind of like that slow letdown where you don't have that one moment of like, I did this and here's the answer. Boom. No. Right?
Yeah. And then hopefully by that time of the day or two, you're on to something else. Another audition pops up, another thing of interest that you're doing, so it doesn't really pull the energy out, the life out of you.
I think that's probably another thing is you have to let go. You do your best, you focus on it, and then once you walk out, it's like, hey, that was fun. And then you have to start thinking about
something.
Great.
Still holding that moment, the joy that you had in that performance, but just, realize that this process is just so random, you can't really know.
I had this one thing come up that was really odd for me. It was like a big budget movie, way bigger budget movie than I've ever been in. And it was like someone had dropped out at the last minute, so they were looking to cast this part like instantly, right? So I got an audition for it, and the casting person was someone I'd never met, and she was fabulous. I mean, she was so smart and just helped me so much to kind of find things in it that I wasn't in danger of finding on my own, and just was so cool. And she said, so I want you to come back and meet the director. And he's a big-time director, right? And I'm going, yeah, sure. When can you do it? And I said, well, how about tomorrow night? And I was thinking, how about tonight? I'm going, oh, well, if tonight's tonight, I'll be available tonight. So I go there, and there's like 8 of us or something, right? A couple guys I recognize. But, I go in there, and there's the director. He's a big-time director. And there's the writer. And he's a pretty famous writer, too. And they're sitting there. And then there's the casting director, and then the camera operator and her 2 assistants. These 4 casting people I kind of know, and then the 2 honchos, right? Mm-hmm. And I had figured out this kind of cool plan. I was going to do this big kind of physically imposing thing to put a button on the last scene, right? And I'm doing it. It's going good. There's nice light. It's nice space. You can tell they respect the actors. And I hit the bit that I'd imagined, and the room just erupted. It was like just this wonderful sense of success, and people were surprised and delighted. And I heard one of the men, and I never figured out which one, say to the other guy, well, that's the man. That's the guy. That's the guy. And I'm thinking, that's the guy. He said that's the guy right in the throes of my audition. So my normal thing is like I'm going to call. I'm going to wait, see what happens. But I went home that night. I thought, I gotta find out. So I called my manager. I said, they said I was the guy. So I just want to give you a heads up. He goes, well, what do you want me to see what's up? I go, well, they said I was the guy. So he calls him the next morning. He says, well, they may have said you were the guy, but someone else is actually the guy. So, right. So I could have had a couple of days, and
because you rushed it. I rushed
it.
You could have had that glow for a couple of more days.
How long ago was this, if you don't mind me asking?
This was like about 5 or 6 months ago.
5-6 months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that director and the writer and all those people in the room are like, that's a Martinez. In the room. I mean, the body of work, it's like, you go in, you do your thing, and they loved you. It's like, I'm sure they were just as thrilled to have you.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences like that too. I think we talked about this a lot with I did an audition for NCIS. I've auditioned for them a lot, and they call me back in a lot. And one was like me. It's like this prosecuting attorney who's grilling a witness on the stand, and I'm that guy. That's my role. And I walked in, and I do like you. I came in. I had said what I wanted to do. I did it. Just nailed it, and it was this big build of tension, and then this big letdown button, and then at the end, I heard the entire room kind of sigh, like they were holding their breath at the end. I'm like, yeah, I got this. This is me, and I didn't get the role, and so I do this thing. What I do is I will just for my own, I will go back and just to see who did book it. Like it'll come out, it'll air weeks to months later. And I'll just see who booked it. And almost always, I can see that it was nothing to do with my performance or me. The guy that booked it he was also a veteran actor. He was older than I am. He was Caucasian. He was a lot more reserved in his portrayal of that character than me. Which is simply what they may have been looking for that character, even though they liked my performance. But I still let it go. Like, hey, I know I did a great job. I know they love me. They keep calling me back in.
Right.
But it was fun to do that, to finally get to do that role for people and have that kind of reaction.
Yeah. That's really wonderful.
I think I haven't had a big time director. I joked about this before. I did an audition for a show, and it was directed by Kira Sedgwick, who is Kevin Bacon's wife.
Kevin Bacon.
Right.
And so I didn't know she was going to be in the room. It was like one of those 8 people in the room plus Kira Sedgwick. So I'm doing this audition, and I'm noticing at that moment that's Kira Sedgwick, like
right there,
away from me. I'm like, okay. Because if I look up and oh my God, Kara, now I'm like 1 degree of separation from Kevin Bacon because it was a really bad joke. So, but yeah, you got those fun times. But that's why auditions are great, and you should really kind of embrace them and enjoy them as much as you can. So also, I think a lot of people that come to me, and I kind of tell them they want to know how to get started. And I tell them what I deal with now getting started. It was, submissions of hard copy and electronic submissions to agents. Submitting to casting people is still done, but I haven't experienced a lot of success with that. In my experience, most casting people defer to the agencies they work with. But when you were starting out, you could go into a casting office and they could potentially call you based on just your background. They wouldn't need you to have an agent necessarily.
Well, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the answer. I've been watching you, the way you approach this, and it's very impressive to me. Actually.
Oh, thank you.
I just when I started out, it was like basically I was at UCLA, and I was doing an improv class taught by the great Louis Palter, who later on went on to teach Ed Harris, and he
knew Ed Harris took improv.
Yeah, it's the coolest improv. It was like he came down from Sandy Meisner, and he was just so legit, and he just basically explained to you about the acting is doing, and your job in the improv was to ask something of someone else, and that person's job was to not give it to you, hence conflict and hence drama, and we're in. But I mean, I had the good luck of just I wasn't looking to start having a career really, but a casting director associated with Coppola's, a guy named Fred Roos, came to that class one day at UCLA, and on a day that 3 of my friends, because I was pretty shy, 3 of my friends jumped me into improvs. So I was sort of a featured actor of that 2-hour class, and he was up in was in a little theater in the Round. He was up in the shadows. We didn't even know he was there. So he basically came down afterwards and said, I'm casting a thing, and I'm looking for people just like you, so you should meet the director. And literally, I was basically, I had no clue that it was a possibility that I could go and actually get paid to do it. I was just a kid just sort of wandering through it and just trying to deal with the social energy of it. And I went and I got that job. And so, and because I got and the teacher, that same teacher, Louis Palter, had an agent, and he said, my agent should meet you because you're someone who could work.
Really?
Right.
Wow.
So, I mean, it just sort of like click.
Yeah.
And that was like, next month it'll be 50 years.
Wow.
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 Yeah, so I don't really know. I just will say that over the course of doing it, when I look back, I wish that I had been more organized and more kind of, and paying attention to sort of the details as I went along. But my defense, it was that, it was the 60s. It was LA, and I was a musician.
Would you consider yourself sort of a hippie back then?
Well, I was way a hippie
You were?
back then. Yeah, I was a musician, so I always was like, I wanted to go jam with the boys,
Yeah.
And we would jam and jam and jam and jam. When I met Meryl Streep, and I actually was sharing the screen with her in She Devil, I was watching the way she dealt with her process in comparison to the way I dealt with my process, and I was thinking, we have taken divergent paths to arrive at this place, right?
Yeah.
A person who it happened that film regularly shot 20 takes of every scene.
Oh, really?
10 takes without a word from the director, and then there'd be 10 takes where she'd throw things. And I watch Meryl Streep, and she would basically, you could put 19 of the 20 takes directly into the movie, no problem. And each of them had something unique to recommend them. They were just, it was like just watching, facets of genius on a string. And if we're going to shoot it 20 times, I got 4 or 5 ideas, maybe.
After that, you're like, what are you? But she was able to just kind of add a little something each time.
Because all those years I was playing guitar in the garage with my homeboys, she was on stage doing great theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, speaking about theater, do you do theater?
Yeah, I do. Not a whole lot, but I do, and I actually went back to it kind of seriously in the last 6 years or so, and it was incredibly good for my work.
Do you find it helps you on film? In other words, the process of theater kind of makes you, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but kind of makes you better on screen?
I think it's funny with me, Jacob Nighthorse in Longmire has been the only character in recent memory that I've done that really landed with people. Part of it is that Longmire was so successful and lasted. But the character...
Well, you were the guy that we hated, but we wanted to like.
Right.
You were like, is he really bad, or is he just in this situation?
Right, exactly. But it was written with a lot of detail and nuance. And the thing that I think, that right at the beginning of it, I did the play Blood Knot, the Fugard play, where it's just 2 guys on stage, myself and Oscar Best, playing brothers in South Africa. And, it's so daunting to actually take a piece of literature like that and go on stage and never leave for the entire thing. There's never a time.
You're there the whole play.
Right. I had one scene where I was sleeping, but it was over quickly. Yeah. That was my rest. But the thing that happened was it was wildly well received, and you have. We spent 6 or 7 weeks working on it. It's great literature, and you start to find things in the work that are bigger than that you're used to doing in television or in films, right? It's you're filling up a theater, and I found that the kind of stylistic growth and the confidence you get from being on stage with no net and have people love it. I mean, it made me feel so much better about myself.
Really,
Yeah, it really helped. And when you start feeling better about yourself,
everything.
you know, the edges of what you're willing to risk expand. You know, and as soon as you start to risk more, you know, chances are you're going to be better received.
So it's a big growing process.
Yes,
Yeah.
it feeds you. True.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. You feel that way?
I have I've done theater, of course, but yeah, I think some of my most memorable experiences were on stage. And I'm looking at getting back more into theater now because of what you talked about what that can do for your craft. So yeah, I can see that.
It's complicated to handle it and do this at the same time. It's not easy.
Yeah. I think my hesitancy with theater was a couple things. One is the time commitment, but it's not as much for me now, I don't think. But also because the acting style of on the stage is going to be different than on screen.
Yeah.
And because I've been focusing a lot on screen, I don't want to get in the habit of being too big because I'm from the stage. But any good actor can go back and forth.
Right.
Like, you know, there's the Denzels and Meryl Streeps and you know, Jeffrey Wright. They can all do that stuff pretty easily. So I should be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I agree. I think you want to broaden your work as much as you can and explore, and not just, you know.
I know for me, I've always been a people photographer, and every once in a while it gets. I feel I'm really good at what I do, but every once in a while it becomes mundane. And so I have to go out and do something that I don't normally do, whether it's walking the street and taking pictures, whether it's doing landscape. Just remembering that I actually love the art of photography. And I think that that's important. You know, Merrick, you know, he came from an engineering background. You know, he had a real job before he ventured out into this. And so he's very methodical in his planning and, you know, the way he does things. But bottom line, you have to remember, I do this because I love it and I'm good at it. And I think that probably theater gives you that, this is really fun. People are clapping and, you know, that energy is probably different. It just kind of reminds you, I love this. That's why I'm here.
You know, it's scary and, you know, you get to share it with people.
Yeah.
It's scary. I remember when I was younger, my regular default was I'd be on the wings about to go out and I'd be going, what was I thinking? You know, I could be home drinking a beer. I could be watching TV and kicking back, and I'm going to go out here in front of all these people and, like, you know, what the hell? But thank God that's over. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you know, that keeps you away from it. And part of it, I think, is getting older. I think I have less energy to be fearful than I used to.
Yeah. Another thing too about about exploring it and branching out with your craft too. When I look at it from a business point of view, or for things like film and television, I know a lot of actors feel like, you know, I want to be able to act and not be restricted. I don't want to be pigeonholed as something. And I get that, but I kind of tell them, listen, if you haven't really built a career yet and you're trying to get into this industry, do what you're best at first. And then once you've got some foothold, something to show as what you're great at, then maybe show something a little bit different on another project. But don't stifle yourself because you're like, no, I don't want to go off and do other things. I don't want to just do one thing. I want to be, you know, the actor that can do everything.
Yeah.
How is that? Because when you like, when I look at you, I think you're a recognizable icon on screen. Like, all your movies way back, it's like you see your face, you know that's your face. That's you know, that's A. Martinez. Well, when you were going to audition, I have people that I see in audition rooms that I see all the time. And they kind of look like me. So I'm trying to imagine, who was it that was in your audition room with you when you were starting out? They go, oh man, there's another A. Martinez lookalike.
There's so many of them.
Really?
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, you start to know the guys. I remember that we did a thing for American Playhouse. This was, when was this? Boy, must have been probably 1980, something like that. It was called Seguin. It was the story of the first mayor of San Antonio. It was a real historical character. And it was like because it was set, it was set in that world, and then the Alamo happened and all that stuff. And suddenly a lot of the people that I only would see to compete with were all in the same project together. And that was a big breakthrough to actually get to know the people that you regularly are competing with in the rooms and stuff, But it's just the whole sense of the thing over time is unfolded in stages. When I was starting off, kind of the central gig I got was the kid on the street who looked to be guilty of something, right? But only the hero of the show could see that it was just circumstantial.
Right?
His heart was in the right place. It was Barnaby Jones, or it was Beretta, or it was that. I mean, I did that part 7 times in 2 years.
Wow.
Right? It was a trope they wrote for network television.
Wow.
And then finally I got Santa Barbara, which was an amazing gift that I almost blew. I didn't see the potential in it when it came to me. I didn't have a history of liking soaps.
Right. This was one of the newer soap operas of the time.
Yeah, and it was like, and it corresponded with the revolution in the machinery. We inherited this studio at NBC that was state of the art. So suddenly, instead of flooding the stage with light and having to project as if you're in the theater, now you can actually do a soap where you can whisper. And they can hear you because the sound gates are so sensitive, and you can shoot in candlelight. So it allowed for an intimacy in the storytelling that previously wasn't available on daytime TV. So it was a great time to jump in there, and I got lucky with that. And so suddenly, and they showed it all over the world. So suddenly I could play like a leading man of sorts.
Yeah.
And that was working great. And I mean, I had a wonderful run doing that. And then I got older, and I would start to notice when I walked in the room, people would go, "Oh, he's not quite that guy anymore, is he? No, he's not really quite that guy anymore." No one would be overt about it, but you could just see.
What were they seeing instead, do you think?
Well, they were just seeing a guy that was older, and was not as, that guy was, even though I was playing younger than I was, I seemed to be, in the bloom of youth for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a tough guy. I mean, I know what you're saying about you being the troubled kid from the streets, but then I saw a lot of tough guy. I mean, like, was it Manhunter, I think, or something like that? You were like the detective. There's a few other things where you're like the tough guy.
Yeah, I played the tough. That's true. I played the tough.
You're like the tough. You're the tough sidekick. The guy that would come.
Right. Yeah. Like Richard Jordan. Looking for the Night Stalker. So and then basically, finally, and the way the games work, they write for the ingenues and the young, the prince and the princess, and then they write for the grown-ups, and then they write for the old people. But there's not a lot of writing, in between in comparison. So I finally got old enough that I could actually grow out some gray on my face.
Oh yeah.
And so the minute I grew this, I started working again. Like my wife's not crazy about it. Right? Doesn't like it so much.
Wow.
I've had a lot of people. People like feel entitled to walk up and like grab you.
Oh yeah.
I said, what?
No,
seriously? I'm going to walk up and like rub my hand on your hair. What's the hell with that?
I did hear that once start showing a little bit of gray, that it tends to kind of bump up your activity a bit more for some reason.
It did for me. Yeah. Swear to God. Yeah. So but it's just like you have a sense that there's chapters.
You got to take advantage of all the chapters.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true. And great advantage.
I've survived. Yeah. You do start to get credit for just showing up. It's true though.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So tell me about Queen of the South. I mean, Longmire we loved. We watched here in Longmire, and all the cast in there we saw. And then I heard that you were doing Queen of the South. I go, wow, and I don't. You have to talk about the character you're playing, but what's your experience with the show overall since you were working on it? It's filmed in Texas. Or?
Yeah, it's filmed in Dallas.
Okay.
I tell you, man, and this is an example of that kind of the casting process at its best. I auditioned for one of the leading characters, and they were like right up front, kind of in the process. Well, I don't think so, but maybe this other guy. This would be a cool guy for you to play. I'm thinking, hey, that's cool. You're looking for something because it's a big story. So I tried out for that guy, and it went well. Seemed like it went really well. I mean, they were just really, they were just talking kind of in a way that makes you think they really liked that. And I drove away, and I get a call on my phone. Come back. We want you to try this other part. So and at the Get, I'm trying out for 3 parts, and then they said, okay, so we're going to have you be in that, play that part. So I was so thrilled, and then I got this play.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of the play,
Yeah.
and they call up and say, okay, we're shooting the pilot, and it's in Mexico City. We want you to come and do this thing. And my manager said, well, he doesn't have an understudy in the play, so it would be great if we could work it into the kind of, so he doesn't blow the weekends, right? So, and they went, sure, we'll do that. And they were really cool about it. But then it became more and more difficult to actually make it work as things changed for them. Mm-hmm. So then they said, his part's not that big in the pilot. We're going to write him out of the pilot, and, he'll get the part if it gets picked up. Don't worry about it. So I'm thankful.
Oh, wow.
Right. So then I get another job on Days of Our Lives, which, that came. They actually wrote a character for me, which was a blessing, beyond blessing. So I'm doing that. And, of course, the way soaps work now is like on any given day, you're shooting more than one episode. So on 2 given days, I was shooing 5 episodes of Days of Our Lives. It was in the can. They call and they go, okay, we're ready to use you on Queen of the South here in Dallas on those exact days. So yes. My manager said, he's, so they go, oh, are you kidding? So now, again, he's not available. So they said, okay, thanks. And I didn't hear nothing for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And then they called up and said, well, there's this other part, and is he available?
Yeah.
I'm extremely available.
Yeah.
And so it was like the 4th part that I might have done on that show. And,
wow.
And it was really great. And to answer your question more concisely, to answer your question in a way that's not all about
no, that's what I want to hear. That's good stuff.
But is that the show it starts with, there's a tremendous amount of feminine power at the front of it, and the vision of it, and the production, and the show running, and in the people that run it and think of it, and of course Alice Braga, who plays the Queen, is one of the great people. She's a profoundly nurturing, kind, considerate person and a workhorse. So it puts, anytime you have the person who's in the center and the people at the top be like really cool, woke folk, it just makes for a wonderful experience. The camaraderie on that set is profound.
Yeah, I can sense that from watching the show, the first season specifically. So I think I kind of know some of the roles you're talking about. She's actually Brazilian, I guess?
Yes.
And I saw her in City of God, was it? City of God originally?
City of God.
And then she got this role where she plays a woman from Mexico who gets caught up in the drug scene.
Right.
The heavy drug scene.
Right. Well, while I was on the road doing it, I saw her with Will Smith in Legion, was it? It was when
she was in that.
Yeah, and she was like, it was just she and Will at the end of it, and she's very, very good.
Yeah, she's great. So I'm really excited to see the new season.
It'll be good. The character I'm playing is not the sweetest.
No,
man,
really,
that you've run across
on this show.
Just to say.
So I know when I first met Merrick, I said, you lie for a living, and he said, no, actually, I tell the truth.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that I've seen, that a good actor can find that piece in them. Merrick's a super calm, easygoing guy, and it's weird when I'm running lines or something with him and he's this, or I see him acting and he's, and it's like, wow, but you have to find that, somehow. So how is it for you to play a guy that, because I know you and you're a pretty cool guy, so how is it to day in and day out, because you've spent a lot of time with this show, how is it day in and day out to bring this not so nice person out of you? The confession in it is that there's fun in it. Yeah, because
the license to
a license to do something you can't do.
It's like misbehave on a level that you can barely even imagine, right?
Yeah.
But of course, one of the kind of deal breaker aspects of deciding to do something like that. I mean, I'm aware of the power of story and the way it embeds itself in people's minds, and you have a responsibility for what stories you choose to be a part of telling. That's something you don't know maybe so much when you're starting out, but you realize later there's you have a responsibility when people see your name to want, if they're going to come to you because they recognize you as someone they can trust to give them something valuable, you'd better be careful how you employ that, right? So the thing about this guy, because he is, for want of a better word, he's a monster. Mm-hmm. And so the thing that was important to me in choosing to say yes to that was that he gets his just desserts, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The society can continue to function as long as we hold certain concepts in place, and one of them is that people who misbehave on such a profound level must be held to account, and he is held to account.
That's good. It's a good message.
Yeah. In this on the set, I'm a friendly guy, and you know what I mean. But okay, now we're going to shoot the scene where you're like the monster in full bloom, and I do it full on, and I have no problem finding it in myself. And afterwards, the people that I'm kind of standing around shooting the breeze with, I notice are not so eager to talk.
They're like, okay,
literally, it's like,
we're gonna.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I would say that bringing out that part of you, that's the truth, and that's one thing that some people may not realize about acting is you're bringing out that true part of you. Now, of course, you're not all of that character, but some part of that is going to be true, and that's what you're really working with as a core, and that's where you're kind of building other stuff from. And so I also find it really fun to be able to play those characters when I am given that chance. But yeah, I still feel like I'm happy to build the foundation of the lawyer, doctor, detective, which is what I say a lot of. If you look at my IMDb commercials, I'm the doctor. I'm like 5 different doctors on commercials right now. So
yeah, that's really good. That's really good, man.
My sister called and she said, I saw Dr. Merrick on TV. I'm like, which doctor?
Which Dr. Merrick?
Which commercial? Because
I know. I see you a lot. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us on, Peggy.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. I know everybody is going to enjoy this, and we may have to have you guys come back on again.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, this was really fun. I really appreciate it. Make sure that you go to my YouTube and subscribe and share the heck out of this video. Make sure you leave me comments, and most importantly, have an amazing week. Thanks a lot.